Okay, everyone, thank you for coming. I'd like to thank Senator Murray for being here. We expect Senator Wyden in a few minutes, but we're going to start. And I'd like to thank my colleagues for joining me here today to discuss this jaw-dropping report from the Congressional Budget Office. Today's report confirms what doctors, patient advocates, Democrats, and Republicans have been saying for weeks. Trumpcare will lead to higher costs for less care and will lead to tens of millions of Americans left without any insurance. For weeks, Senate Republicans tried to tell us that their bill would be better than the House bill. It would be different than the House bill. Many House members even said they only voted for the House bill because they said the Senate bill would make it better. CBO's report today makes clear that this bill is every bit as mean as the House bill. This CBO report should be the end of the road for Trumpcare. Republicans would be wise to read it like a giant stop sign, urging them to turn back from this path that would be disastrous for the country, for middle-class Americans, and for their party. There's a lot to unpack in this report, but I want to look at a few key things. First, the CBO makes clear that many Americans would pay more, a lot more, for their health care under the Senate's Trumpcare bill. Just look what happens to seniors. Under our current system, if you're 64 years old and have an income of $56,000, you'd pay a $6,800 premium for a silver plan. Under Trumpcare, you'd pay a whopping $20,500, a third of your income. The CBO report makes clear that the Senate bill offers a bait and switch when it comes to their medical costs. Americans who see lower premiums would get less care or pay even more out of pocket deductibles or other health care. So you only have two choices under this, neither good. You get lower premiums or you get higher deductibles. Either way, the American person loses. What good is a health care plan that has a small premium that doesn't cover any of your first $15,000 of costs? Or you have to pay 80% of the cost of a hospitalization? No good at all. No good at all. So remember, the two bad choices: higher premiums, higher deductibles, and copays. Neither one good for the average American. The dynamic would be even worse in states that now, under the bill, will choose to waive essential health benefits, like prescription drug coverage or opioid treatment. CBO estimates this will be half the population where the services they actually need will no longer be covered, leading to a significant increase in out-of-pocket costs. So, what they give with one hand, in terms of lower premiums, they more than taketh away with huge increases in out-of-pocket costs and slashed benefits. The bill has been hanging on by a thread in the Senate, and CBO shows why. But we won't rest on our laurels. This week, the American people will witness a political exercise. The majority leader will attempt to coerce the votes of his reluctant Republican colleagues and any other holdouts by adjusting the dials on the legislation a bit. There will be buyouts and bailouts and tweaks that will be hailed as fixes by the other side. But the truth is, the Republicans cannot excise the rotten core at the center of their health care bill, no matter what tweaks they add. No matter how the bill changes around the edges, it is fundamentally rotten at the center. No matter what last-minute amendments are offered, this bill will force millions of Americans to spend more of their paychecks on health care and receive fewer benefits simply so the wealthiest of Americans can pay less in taxes. Senator Murray.
Thank you, Senator Schumer. After weeks of secret negotiations between 13 male Republicans, after keeping Democrats in the dark and hiding the details from patients and from families, all the while claiming the Senate version of Trumpcare would somehow be better, today's CBO report makes it clearer than ever just how mean Trumpcare is and why. The bottom line is Trumpcare is a minefield of higher health care costs for patients and families, and it is a massive giveaway to special interests in the healthcare industry. Depending on what state you live in, if you're a senior, Trumpcare will spike your premiums. If you need maternity care, you could pay as much as $1,000 more per month on top of the rest of your coverage. If you need mental health care, care for a substance use disorder, or prescription drugs, you could see your costs go up by thousands of dollars a year. That means, despite what so many of our Republican colleagues claim, I want to be very clear that Trumpcare guts protections for people with pre-existing conditions. Because as any family will tell you, coverage that is too expensive to buy, like it very well could be under Trumpcare, that is no coverage at all. Trumpcare raises family health care costs in these ways and more while making sure those at the top and big corporations get a handout. Those are not the goals any health care bill should aim for. And this certainly isn't the way we should be writing a bill that would have so much impact on the health and financial security of people across our country. I know a number of Republicans have expressed concerns about Trumpcare over the last few days, and I also know that Republican leaders are working as hard as they can to twist arms and cut backroom deals. I fully expect that to continue and to get even worse in the next few days, and I just hope that Republicans who are rightly concerned about the impact Trumpcare would have will stand strong for their constituents, take a close look at the facts on the table, recognize it is time to change course, and drop this Trumpcare once and for all. It is not too late. Democrats are at the table, like we always have been, if Republicans are truly ready to work on policies that actually help lower costs and improve care for patients and families, because that should be the goal.
Senator Wyden.
Thank you, Leader Schumer, and the leader and Senator Murray have said it very well. And if I were to summarize it, once again, here is a Republican health proposal that is going to hit millions of working people and seniors like a wrecking ball. You just look at the numbers, $772 billion in cuts to Medicaid, hundreds of billions in tax breaks for the wealthy and corporations. And what a lot of people haven't picked up on, and I was struck over the weekend when I saw a number of Republican senators saying that the Obama tax policies in the Obama health care plan were punishing the American economy. That is just nonsense. They're making retroactive the tax breaks. So as some have pointed out, you get $1 million capital gain, say, in February, you get a $38,000 tax break. And you're not creating any jobs. You're giving somebody a windfall. And a windfall that, for example, is going to deal yet another body blow to the nation's older people. I have been talking to them pretty much nonstop through the weekend. The leader and I have been discussing these issues. Just got off the phone with a conference call with the Alliance of Retired Persons. They understand that Medicaid is picking up the bills of 2 out of 3 seniors in nursing homes. And if you're a baby boomer, for example, and you have a stroke or you get early onset of Alzheimer's, forget it. You are going to be in serious risk of facing a life with lots of squalor and maybe being out on the street. The fact is, cuts of this magnitude will rip through the fabric of American society. Not just seniors, kids who need special needs services, those struggling with opioid addiction. We talked with them throughout the weekend. They are going to lose access to life-saving treatment. And to me, the most important takeaway out of this afternoon is this is another big step back to the days when health care in America was for the healthy and the wealthy. That's what we changed with the Affordable Care Act. And I was proud to have been involved. The leader made mention of the fact we've never been invited to any bipartisan discussions. Well, the provision that finally protected Americans from discrimination against those insurance companies that would harm them if they had a pre-existing condition, that was bipartisan. So now it is being unraveled on a partisan basis. We would never be part of that. If Democrats were invited to participate in those talks, we never would be part of that. So at the end of the day, and the leader and I sat next to each other on the Finance Committee for almost a decade. So it's not as if this is something new. We see this as paying tribute to the altar of the fortunate few who've wanted tax breaks. And that's what this is all about. A big, big tax cut at the expense of working people and seniors. And that is why this week we are going to fight it with everything we've got.
I'll just add one thing that Ron said. You know, the hard right, which seems to be in control now, has always had two goals. One, cut taxes on the very wealthy. Two, undo the safety net of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And this bill takes the first big step in that direction. It's an ideological document to please the hard right. Unfortunately, it badly hurts the American people. Questions?
Can you talk for a minute about, and I remember Senator Murray referenced this, you said, you know, they're going to cut backroom deals and twist arms and things. And of course, when Obamacare passed, there was criticism of tactics that Democrats used, Gatorade, Louisiana Purchase, and so on. I know you don't like the bill, but that said, how can you upbraid them for potential tactics they might use compared to tactics that we use?
There's one basic difference. The core of our bill was good and covered more people. The core of their bill is bad and covers less people and charges them more. So tactics to get a good deed done is a lot different than tactics that will really harm the American people just to hurt the wealthy.
Leader, can I add one point on that? Chad, in the Finance Committee, where the two of us served, we took 14 Republican amendments as part of the Senate Finance Committee markup. 14 Republican amendments. There aren't going to be any Democratic amendments. So this idea that somehow this was just a repeat of what happened in 2009, that's just not right. And Senator Murray has already outlined, for example, the numbers of days of hearings that we had, the number of joint markups. But I can tell you 14 Republican amendments were accepted in 2009.
And I'll go after this one. If you guys can stay,
Yeah.
I'll just have another meeting.
With Senators Johnson and Miller signaling pretty strongly that they are prepared to vote against the motion to proceed on this bill, how confident are Democrats that you can kill it on that procedural vote when it comes on?
Well, that's our first job, is to try and kill this bill, to try and just make sure this bill doesn't pass because it does such harm to the American people. I said yesterday that I think it's about 50-50. I don't count Senator McConnell out, but this is such a bad bill that even his legislative wizardry is having a rough time here. And I would say this, if the bill goes down, we want to do two things. First, we would demand that the President and our Republican colleagues stop sabotaging the bill. In other words, fund cost sharing permanently right away. The insurers themselves say that's the number one thing that destabilizes the markets. CBO said the markets were getting stabilized until that happened. But second, we're willing to sit down and work with them. We've said this time and time again. Nobody said ACA was perfect. We know it needs changes. And we have asked them over and over again, instead of excluding us, which they did on January 4th, this idea that Democrats didn't want to be part of it. On January 4th, they passed reconciliation, which said Democrats take a hike, the day after we were sworn in. Instead of it, we have asked them over and over again. We sent a letter signed by 48 Democrats saying, here's what we want to do to improve it. What do you want to do? I asked Senator McConnell that 100 senators meet in the old Senate chamber to have a discussion. This was all rejected. They did not want us to be involved, because I suppose their number one goal was for tax cuts on the wealthy, and our party doesn't go for that. I'm going to turn it over to Patty and Ron. Okay. I have to go downstairs.
We need to vote. So one more, yeah.
One more.
Great.
On the issue of amendments, have you guys landed on a strategy yet? And
If not, what do you do about Planned Parenthood? What is within the realm of options?
I think that is a question that we will deal with if we come to it. I think the question that was asked, whether or not Republicans are going to vote for a bill that puts 22 million people at risk of losing their insurance, cuts them off from care, increases costs for families, charges seniors more, and we will see if they take that vote.
Let me just add one thought to that. I've talked with the leader about this, and Senator Murray at the Help Committee and myself at the Finance Committee will certainly be talking to our colleagues. Our colleagues have plenty of ideas, Kelsey, for material amendments that are hugely important and, frankly, I think might generate some bipartisan support. So I'm going to continue to consult with my colleagues, but I can tell you that on our side, we have a number of senators who have really important material amendments. Thanks, everybody.